And I'll have a word to say about that next week. Our outdoor service, possible. It's all depending on the weather. Our Wednesday night service is 7 o'clock. It'll either be inside or outside, depending on weather. So just keep a ear to the ground there. Thank you to everybody who helped us with our summer outreach yesterday. As I mentioned, we had 2 saved. It was a great blessing to get out in the communities. We took our 3 Sunday school buses and turned them into ice cream trucks. And I think every Sunday school bus ought to be an ice cream truck, honestly. The kids come, they love it. And so we had some good opportunities and inroads. At my club, we got to talk to one parent for a good long time and be able to minister to her. And looking forward to future ministry with that family and other families. But thank you for helping. If you'd like to help with the next 2 weeks, next 2 Saturdays, we'll have the Bible Club as well. And looking forward to what God's going to do there. Our starting point class will begin Sunday, July 26th at 5 p.m. We've never done a starting point class at 5 p.m. before, but we have done a lot of things that we're doing recently. Everything's all mumbled up. So starting point class is for those who are new to the ministry and you'd like to get orientated to our church. You may be a prospective new member, or you may not be. You may just want to come just to learn about our church. But it's 4 weeks long, beginning Sunday the 26th, and every Sunday after that for 4 weeks at 5 o'clock in my office. If we have too many people, spill over to the room. But you can sign up at aabaptist.church/start. And you can also sign up and get a connection card and put that in the box on your way out today. So we're looking forward to that. All right, well, I was all geared up today to talk about our phase 2 of our reopening. And Michigan's kind of taken a little bit of a step back here recently. So I want to, first of all, we're going to pause our phase 2. We are still hoping and praying that we can move to phase 2 by July 26th. That was the plan. I think that we'll be able to do at least some of what we're hoping to do on July 26th, but I'm thinking that we will have to tweak some things. And I didn't want to lay all that out here today and have the anticlimactic phase 2, and then the Michigan's going backwards. So I want to see what Michigan's doing. There was an executive order that went out by our governor. Just was it Friday or Saturday or something like that? I have it here. There's no date on that. But I wanted to give some clarity as far as the executive order that just came out from the governor. So this is mostly about masks in Michigan. So we're required now to wear a face covering when in indoor public places or when you're outdoors but unable to stay 6 feet away. However, there are several exceptions to this. If you cannot medically tolerate a face covering, there's several others. I won't read them all. But if you're officiating a religious service, do me. And also it says on number 6 here, it says, back up. Nothing in this order shall be taken to abridge protections guaranteed by the state or federal constitution under these emergency circumstances, and no individual is subject to penalty under Section 8 of this order for removing a mask while engaging in religious worship at a house of religious worship. All right? So I'll read the part again. No individual is subject to penalty for removing a mask while engaging in religious worship at a house of religious worship, consistent with the guidelines from CDC. However, congregants are strongly encouraged to wear face coverings during religious services. So I'm going to leave it up to you. I've read it for you, that you can go either way with that. And we need to recognize that even with our congregation, there are going to be strong opinions both ways. So my main concern is that we do want to comply. I believe we are complying in a religious service right now. Many of you have removed your masks, but when we are out of here, if we're fellowshipping outside, we should still try to do what is being asked of us here. Stay 6 feet away if you're not going to have a mask on. And if we're in the building around folks after the service, and that's not a religious service at that point, it's fellowship afterwards, if you're going to be in the close proximity of people, then you should definitely have those on. And also just remember that since there are various needs in our congregation, some are sick, some have a high likelihood of getting sick, some are ministering to sick people, just be very sensitive to one another's needs. All right, we love to handshake, we love to hug, but don't just come up to somebody and give them a big old bear hug, even though you haven't seen them in a million years or whatever. Let's be sensitive to one another's needs here. especially if someone makes it very clear where they're at. Let's be respectful and gracious. We want to have a good testimony in our community. We are very glad that we're able to meet today. We know what it's like to live stream exclusively, and that was cool for a while, but I was definitely glad to get back. And so we want to be a good testimony to our community. And there are some folks who are going to see this one way, some will see it another. So we're definitely in line with the executive order. And as far as how things go with phase 2, we just need to pray and wait and see just how exactly things are going to go in Michigan and what the governor does as well. But we do have several things that we'd like to present. Pray with us about it. That would begin July 26th, and we'll just keep you informed. And stay tuned for that, if you would. All right, and because of that, I also have a note here that Jessie Boland's shower. Jessie's down here. Her shower is on for August 1st at 10:30. We don't know exactly all the details of how it's going to work yet. We had a couple showers during lockdown. One was a live stream shower, one was a drive-by shower. Not exactly sure what this will be, but mark it down, ladies, Saturday, August 1st, 10:30 a.m. Invitations posted in the lobby, and we will have more details coming to you, just so in other words, stay tuned exactly as to how that will be handled. All right? We won't be passing the offering plate, as we have not been passing that since COVID-19, but the offering box is in the back. It's a secure box. You can give back there if you're prepared to do so, and there's envelopes and so forth back there, or you can get online at aabaptist.church/give. I want to say again, it's been a great blessing to see how God has blessed our church in these days through the giving. I was just able to go to a preacher's fellowship, the second preacher's fellowship since COVID-19, and every single pastor at this particular fellowship, which there was, I want to say there was 13 pastors, they all said that their church's giving has stayed strong through COVID-19. And that's a great blessing, because I've heard of several churches that have not had that have really, really suffered, and especially from the church plants. So we praise the Lord. Thank you for your faithfulness. And again, if you're a guest with us today, we're not expecting you to give, but we're glad that you're here. You can worship the Lord with us. Let's have a word of prayer at this time. Lord, we thank you for your faithfulness to us. Thank you, Lord, that as we sang a moment ago, this is our Father's world. This is your world, Lord. You know about COVID-19. You know about what's going on in America. You know every need that we have, and Lord, we trust you. We pray, Lord, you would keep us all safe during this time. We pray that there be no problems here in our church, health problems or spread of illness. We pray that you would also help us just to continue to be able to be a light to our community in a time of uncertainty. Lord, we know that during these days, people need the Word of God. They need churches, and we need to be actively involved in one of those lives. Or give us wisdom on how to do this the most effectively in these circumstances. Lord, we thank you for your faithfulness through the finances. Thank you, Lord, for how you provided. We just continue to look to you now. And thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to give our tithes and offerings and missions giving. Would you be honored and glorified through it, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
God
who's in control. Our theme for the year has been strengthened for the work. We've been taking this theme from the book of Nehemiah and also Ezra. We did Esther already. Nehemiah and Ezra. And we made it through the book of Ezra and then took a little break and now I'd like to come back. And we're going to look at Nehemiah and begin plowing through Nehemiah here a little bit. Nehemiah 2:18 is where our theme comes from. The Bible says, "Then I told him of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's word that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work." We have focused on that matter of strengthening our hands. Whether we're building lives, or buildings, or families, whatever we're building, we need His strength for the work. Since it's been a little bit since we have been in this series, I thought it'd be good for us to do a little bit of review, and we'll dive into Nehemiah 1 here in a moment. Ezra and Nehemiah were both men that God used during a dark time in Israel's history, a time of captivity. They were used as instruments of God's restoration and blessing to His people. We think of them oftentimes as builders, and they were. They were involved in building the temple and the wall around the city. But that was not their primary mission. Their mission was about people. They only built buildings and walls and so forth because their mission necessitated it. They needed to reach people, and so therefore it was necessary for the edification and the fortification of those people to do some building, but their lives were all about people. And God used them. They had the call of God upon them. That's clear in both Ezra and Nehemiah. They had the hand of God on them. I preached the whole message on the hand of God from Ezra and Nehemiah. But they had the power of God on them to do the work, and this strengthened them for the work God called them to do, and the people were encouraged to follow. We're going to look a little bit at the history here. Again, it's helpful if we know how this fits into the bigger picture. So where we know where they fit in the historical narrative and why the temple and wall needed to be repaired in the first place. This is review. There was judgment, division as a result of rebellion, and there was captivity. The division was between the northern and the southern kingdoms at first. All the northern kings were wicked, and eight of the southern kings were good. But they eventually went into idolatry. The northern kingdom was judged and taken into captivity in 722 BC. The southern kingdom followed suit in 586 BC. And so the children of Israel did not walk in the ways of David. And Solomon didn't walk very long in the ways of his father. They very quickly turned aside and went into judgment, into captivity. Well, God had not forgotten about His people, and His plan was to bring them back and to restore them as a nation to their land and to give His blessing once again. So we'll give a little chart here. In 605, King Jehoiakim submits to Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel and others are taken captive. That might be hard to read. I apologize if it's too small on the screen. 597, King Jehoiachin carried away to Babylon as a captive, along with many others, including Ezekiel. In 586, King Zedekiah is blinded and taken captive to Babylon. Jerusalem and the temple are destroyed. This is why we needed it to be rebuilt. And then the kingdom of Judah ceases to exist. 582, about 4,600 people are carried away captive. This is told us in Jeremiah 52 and 30, verse 30. So then we have the time of exile and return. This is the post-exilic era, or the restoration era. This was told by the books of Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and then Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. We looked a little bit at Haggai and Zechariah as part of this series. And then we come to the restoration era timeline. In 538, Cyrus gives his decree, which is totally miraculous. Here's a pagan king who gives a decree to send the people back to build the temple. How did this happen? Well, God was in control. God was involved in this. You have the first return in 537, where the rebuilding of the temple takes place. And this is the two men that are key in this, Sheshbazzar and Zerubbabel. A lot of times Ezra gets the credit for building the temple. It's actually these two fellows, Sheshbazzar and Zerubbabel, in the first return, Ezra 1 through 6. Then the temple is finished in 515. story, and that's where you have the story of Esther. Esther is wedged between Ezra 6 and Ezra 7. And it's a powerful book that we looked at not too terribly long ago, about a year or two ago. And then the second return is when Ezra comes. So the first return, they build. The second return, Ezra comes and he teaches. And we went through all of that, Ezra 7 through 10, and how God used him to turn them back to the law of God. Then you have the third return, which is where we'll be looking today. Jerusalem's walls need to be rebuilt, and that was Nehemiah's job. Nehemiah 1 through 6 tells this story. And then in 445 to 433, Nehemiah has his first term as governor. That's Nehemiah 7 through 12. And then his second term as governor is told in Nehemiah 13. A little bit of background. And so now we'll get to Nehemiah chapter 1 as we see that Nehemiah has been captive for some time. He is the king's cupbearer. He waits upon the king continually. And he gets some bad news. You ever got any bad news? They say we get bad news all the time via the media, right? And just every time you turn on the news, is there any good news on the news? It seems like there's always something terrible happening. Well, he didn't have Facebook, he didn't have news outlets, and he had his friend Hanani, one of the brethren, who came and told him that this. He said, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. And the wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. He got a very bad report, but I want you to see how he responded to it. This bad report was that which drove him to his knees. Nehemiah saw there was a problem, there was a need, and he answered the call. Let's read Nehemiah 1, 4 through 11. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept, and mourned certain days, and fasted, and prayed before the God of heaven, and said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. For thy and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which thou commandest thy servant Moses. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, If ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants, who desire to fear thy name, and prosper, I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man. For I was the king's cupbearer. Lord, help us as we look at your word and make application from it. Lord, teach us to pray the way Nehemiah prayed. Teach us, Lord, to own these burdens and see our responsibility to help meet the need that is in front of us. And God, I pray you help us this morning to be men and women of prayer and of action. In Jesus' name, amen. I want us to see this morning how to pray like Nehemiah. He answered the call, and he started with his needs. That's really where I think he heard the call loud and clear. It wasn't just that he heard his buddy Hanani, who came and told him what was wrong. That's not enough. He went to his knees, he fasted and prayed, and God got a hold of his heart. And it was in this prayer that God really began to move him and began to move this nation. You remember, I didn't go into this, I should have, as part of the review. How did this whole restoration era begin? Did it begin with Cyrus, with that decree? No, it did not. It began with a prayer that was prayed by Daniel. That prayer was answered, and then Cyrus was part of that answer. The whole restoration timeline begins and continues and is just surrounded with prayer. Ezra was a man of prayer. Nehemiah, a man of prayer. Daniel, a man of prayer. But how can we pray like Nehemiah? I want you to see, first of all, verse 4, let God break you. Let God break you. Don't resist the breaking process. Brokenness is good. It means you're finally on praying ground where God is humbling you and bringing you to the place where He can respond to you and use you. You know, there's a lot of ways to respond to bad news. The bad news He got in verses 1 through 3. You don't have to respond with brokenness and humility and praying to God. You can respond with anger. What? They destroyed the town. They burnt the walls. They broke the walls. They burnt the gate. This is terrible. You get angry. You could talk to all kinds of people, and you could lose sleep and get anxious. You could get worried. You could get scared. There's all sorts of responses to this. But what he allowed God to do is break him over the need, which then put him in a place to be used to meet the need. I believe that God's trying to break us as a nation. I believe God's trying to get our attention. It just seems like one thing after the next. And I'll tell you, I'm tired. My wife and I were talking last night as I was telling her, yep, I just scratched my whole announcement of phase 2. That's in here. Well, Lord, you know. Instead, I come out with an announcement about wear a mask. And that's not what I had planned for today. That's not what I was hoping we were moving, past this, and here we go. And it's one of those things I don't understand. It's one of those things that I have to give to the Lord. But it can also be a lot worse. Things can be way worse. You look at our country and say, "Oh, you mean worse?" There's all kinds of stuff going on in our country. There's all kinds of unrest and outrage and all kinds of political factions warring against each other. And, it's just getting crazy. What is God trying to do? I believe He's trying to get our attention. I believe He is trying to break us. And I believe that brokenness is good. We looked at last week, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom He's chosen for His own inheritance. We are a nation who has begun to forget the Lord. And not just forget the Lord, we're trying to forget everything. We're burning history books and textbooks, and any book that doesn't agree with the modern political narrative gets thrown in the dumpster. I saw my brother sent me pictures of the school. I think it was a school in his area, and the dumpster of this middle school was filled with books about Native Americans, about our history, Civil War, just filled with books, biographies of Lincoln or whoever, you name it. We don't need this anymore. And people are trying to forget history. Though that grieves me, the thing that should grieve us the most is that we are trying to forget God. The Bible tells us that the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget the Lord. You forget God, and it's going bad. The best thing we have going is in God we trust. And when that stops, as I mentioned last week, we're having a huge problem. But how do we respond to this? Do we get angry? Do we fight? And there's times to get definitely some righteous indignation, okay? But there should certainly be some brokenness that should lead us to our knees. Nehemiah was just one guy in a strange land. What could he do? Talk about feeling helpless. We're sensing some of that. We're sensing some helplessness as things are out of our control, decisions being made, and all kinds of stuff happening, and you can't stop it. You can't catch it. You can't hardly chase it. You feel helpless. Daniel felt helpless. Ezra felt helpless. Nehemiah felt helpless. What do you do when things are outside of your control? You go to the one who's in control. And many times God has to bring us to the breaking point. If God cannot break your pride, He will have a hard time hearing your prayer. I'll go a step further than that. If God can't break you of your pride, chances are there won't be a prayer for you to pray for Him to hear. We don't pray when we're proud. I love Isaiah 57:15. I use this verse a lot. It's shown up in a lot of messages. Because it's the key to so much. It's the key to the presence of God. It's the key to prayer. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity. That right there. The high and lofty one that inhabits eternity. Past, present, future, everything. He sees it all. He knows it all. He is not going off. Last night, as I was talking to my wife about this, I was feeling a bit overwhelmed. God's never overwhelmed. He's never overwhelmed. Whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place. Wasn't that great? With him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. We are invited into his presence through brokenness. The word contrite means broken. Humility and brokenness go together. God used a lot of circumstances that brought Nehemiah to this place of helplessness and brokenness. And that's exactly where he needed to be to really be on praying ground. I don't know what all it's going to take until the church is really, truly praying like Nehemiah is praying. Do we have to be sold into captivity? Do we have to literally be scattered abroad? Men and women without a country? The walls burned to the ground, and what is it going to take for us to be broken and to pray? Look what it says here. It says, when I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned certain days, and fasted and prayed. And he goes on to tell that he prays night and day. How long has it been since we were moved to tears about the condition of our country? How long has it been since we've been moved to tears about the condition of our family? That loved one that we're burdened for, our kids who are getting away from God, or whatever the case may be. How long has it been since we've been broken about our own need, our own sin, where we were literally moved to tears, where we had to pray, we had to focus, by the way, sometimes fasting just happens. Sometimes we plan fasts. The best fast I've ever been a part of, I never planned. I was so broken, so focused, so beside myself that the thought of food it just wasn't there. The appetite was gone. You want to bring me a plate of food? Are you kidding me? I'm dealing with something. Push it away. I'm going to turn this off to this topic. We'll do it with the other mic here, Carl. A lot of times we are overwhelmed and we go every direction but to our knees. God is going to continue, I believe, to allow all sorts of things to happen in our country and in our lives and in our families until he gets our attention, because he's trying to bring us to that place of brokenness and focus. How to pray like Nehemiah? Well, first of all, you've got to let God break you. Let's not resist what God is trying to do. But don't stop there. Brokenness is good. But then you can't just be, I'm broken, woe is me, it's over. No. Look at the next verse, verse 5. Remember your covenant-keeping God. He says this in verse 5. I beseech thee, O Lord, God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. That's a great way to start your prayer. First of all, he has let God work him over and break his heart. And he knows he has nothing to offer God. He cannot impress God. But he knows who he is in the presence of. The God of heaven, who is the great covenant-keeping God. God has not forgotten his word. He has not forgotten his promises. We have oftentimes. He uses this phrase, the great and terrible God. And we think, well, that's an interesting way to refer to God. It's the idea that he is awesome. He is terrible in the sense of just his awesomeness and his immenseness, and he is to be feared. None of us feel like we love him fully or have observed his commandments, as this verse says, fully. You know what? God is our Father. We are his children. And though we stray, you see that word mercy? He is the great and terrible God, the covenant-keeping God, who keepeth covenant and mercy to those who love him and observe his commandments. Yes, we love him, but we oftentimes wander. We don't always keep his commandments, but we come back to him and we confess. We ask for forgiveness, and God is always there because he is mercy. Remember the one that you're praying to, and this will help give you encouragement. You remember that God's a covenant-keeping God. And start praying on that basis as a broken, humble individual. Nehemiah, he prayed broken. He prayed to a covenant-keeping God, but also he prayed earnestly, persistently, and continually. Verse 6. Let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open. Let that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servants. He was importunate. That's a word we find in Luke 11. He was not going to be denied. Hear me, Lord. See me, Lord. I've got to pray. You've got to hear the prayer of your servant. In Luke 11, you have the guy who goes to his buddy and asks for some loaves. And though he didn't really want to do it, he gives him the loaves. In Luke 11:13, he says, how much more would if you being evil know how to give good gifts to your brother, how much more your heavenly Father? Give the Holy Spirit to them that ask him, and good gifts to those who ask him. He likes that persistence. He loves his faith. Faith keeps on asking. Faith won't let go. God has always responded to faith. Are we faithful and persistent in prayer? Or do you pray a little prayer and give up? God probably didn't hear it anyway. Daniel made it a habit to pray 3 times a day. And he almost lost his life over it. Ezra prayed all the time. Nehemiah prayed, as it says here, day and night, earnestly, for his country and for the need of his people. You know, we do get earnest today. We do get desperate today. And we need to be men and women of action. But if you're a man or a woman of action, and part of that action is not prayer. If your action doesn't begin with prayer, your action is probably diverted. Potentially wasted. Pray like Nehemiah, let God break you first. Remember your covenant-keeping God. Second, thirdly, pray earnestly, persistently, and continually. That happens when you're broken. You can't make that up, but God can do it. And then fourth, take personal responsibility. As we read on in verse 6, he says, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee, both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which thou commandest thy servant Moses. He is very detailed in this matter of confession of sin. He confesses the nation's sins. He confesses the sins of his father and his father's house. But I want you to see he also confesses his own sins, my sins. He said, both I and my father's house have sinned. You know, I think a lot of times we look at this and we say, okay, this wasn't his problem. He inherited this problem. This wasn't his sin. This goes all the way back to Solomon and Rehoboam. And the kingdom split. You had all the kingdoms in the north were terrible. The kings of the south, only 8 were okay. They were all into idolatry and horrible, wicked atrocities, and they got what they had coming to them. But what about Nehemiah? The poor guy is a captive, and he's sitting here serving a cup to the king. What did he do? Well, you know as well as I, there is nobody who is squeaky clean. There's none righteous, no, not one. There is nobody who has not sinned, and you cannot just say, you know what, I'm in this place because my mom and dad were this, and my grandfather was that, and uncle and aunt, and well, I tell you what, if I had a different dad, a different upbringing, it would have been different, but it's not my fault, it's all their fault. No, you have made your own decisions as well. Nehemiah was a sinner, and he knew it. And though he was a captive, he did not say, oh, God will overlook my sin, because he knows, I mean, look at me. I'm a slave. Certainly, he's going to give me a pass. Not a minute of it. He takes personal responsibility for his sin in this whole picture, his part. He's thinking to himself, you know what, yeah, their sin got us here, but maybe it's my sin keeping us from going back to where we're supposed to be. Maybe it's my sin keeping us here. And so he just gets honest with God. You never get anywhere with the Lord by passing the buck or passing the blame. But when God sees a humble individual taking personal responsibility, he sees an individual that he can use in that situation for his glory. When's the last time that we got on our knees in prayer and were broken over our sin? And said, oh God, forgive me for my sin, my family's sin. Maybe there's issues in your family. Oh, you can point here and there and everywhere in your family. But what about you? The only person you can really have any control over and hope for is the person in that mirror. Get a good look. Let God show you all that you need to take to Him. Ask for forgiveness where there is sin. Deal with that. Take responsibility. We don't live in a culture that preaches taking responsibility. We live in a culture that preaches it's everybody else's fault but you. You're a victim. And now the new American way is we're raising a bunch of victims. The victim mentality did not make America who it is. The victim mentality just tells us we grow up believing everybody owes me, it's not my fault, and we are in a mess. We've got to make sure, folks, that we are humble and take personal responsibility. Hey, you know what? We look at our country and we say, yeah, this is a mess, and this political party and this activist group and all of these different things going on, and boy, I'll tell you what, it's their fault. No, what have you done to reach anyone of those groups? Ask, when's the last time you gave a word of witness? When's the last time you shared a gospel tract? When's the last time you told someone your salvation testimony? We ought to have our testimony on the tip of our tongue. It ought to be one of the greatest stories, how Jesus saved me. We know that the problems that we're facing in our country are spiritual. We know that the election this coming fall is not going to bring about revival. If anything, this election this coming fall is going to bring about World War III. I don't know. I'm like, will this ever be over? We're not looking to Washington. We're looking to heaven. So then, how much are we about the answer? Taking personal responsibility for the sin. Taking personal responsibility for the answer. I love it that Nehemiah said, both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept thy commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments, which thou commandest thy servant. What about you and I? Are you taking personal responsibility for your sin, and also personal responsibility for your family, for your church, for your country, for your neighbors? If you're going to pray like Nehemiah, you got to pray, first of all, broken. Let God break you. Remember your covenant-keeping God. Pray earnestly, persistently, and continually. Take personal responsibility. In verse 8 and 9, stand upon the promises. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. This goes hand in glove with point 2. Remember your covenant-keeping God. It's not enough just to know who you're praying to. Now that you know He's a covenant-keeping God who keeps His promises, stand on the promises. Now it goes both ways. There's verse 8. And then there's verse 9. I don't know about you, I like verse 9 a whole lot better than verse 8. But both are equally true, and he sees it. You know, one thing that we can take comfort from in times of trial or chastening is this. Our covenant-keeping God is doing what He said He would do. If we find ourselves in verse 8, what does verse 8 say? If ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations, as Moses said. If you find yourself in verse 8 as a family, as an individual, or in a country, there's a silver lining there. We have a covenant-keeping God, and He keeps His promises. And here's living proof. But don't just stay there. Don't just hang on to the negative promise. God says He'll judge, and He judged. There it is. God also says He'll turn, and He'll give mercy. But if ye turn unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of heaven. In other words, you're scattered as far as, farther than we can imagine. Yet I will gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Sometimes, folks, we get defeated mentality. You hear people say, oh, God's done with America. America has gone too far. I say, read a history book. We still haven't begun. If you can find one, they have a dumpster for some middle school. We still haven't begun to fall like so many countries before us. Yes, I'm not happy with what's going on in our country. Yes, we need to be broken. Yes, we need to earnestly seek the Lord. We need to also recognize we are still blessed. But so many want to just say, God's done with us. It's over. Yeah, God said, if you do this, He'll scatter you. Yeah, you know what? Hey, America's not mentioned in the book of Revelation, so you know. Just so you know, we're going to be all gone. Amen. That's not encouraging. That's not helping. There is a verse 8, but praise God, there is a verse 9, and we can stand on both. And he stood on this. He said, Lord, we've been scattered here, there, and everywhere. But you can regather us from things. And you can bring us to the place that you have chosen. And did God do it? He did it in an amazing fashion. He used a pagan king to make a decree. And that got the whole thing started. And now it's Nehemiah's turn to come. And there's been more problems, and they still aren't where they need to be. But he gets another decree ultimately to go from another king, Artaxerxes this time. And God uses him. You know, before you can stand on the promises, folks, let me just remind us, before you can stand on the promises, you have to know the promises. If you don't know the promise, you can't pray it. Do you know where this particular promise is found? I looked it up. Deuteronomy 30, verses 1 through 4. Deuteronomy 30. I don't have it in the notes, but you can look it up at your own time if you'd like. Nehemiah knew this promise. He knew the Bible. And he prayed based on God's promises. And I'll tell you, God loves to hear us pray His promises back to Him. It's music to His ears. Here is one of my servants who believes what I said and is claiming it and holding it. God loves to be held accountable for what He wrote. He's not scared of what He wrote. You have to know the promises. Claim them, rehearse them, and make sure you're memorizing them. I tell you, I've had a lot of great prayer meetings with different pastors and evangelism. We pray different meetings. And when I was in Minutemen with the Minutemen evangelism team, Jim Van Gelderen always had prayer meetings. We never did a Minutemen youth meeting without, I don't know how many prayer meetings related to those things. But with John, with netcasters, we had all kinds of prayer meetings around netcasters. And prayer meetings are great, but I'll tell you, prayer meetings can be tough. Prayer meetings can be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. You know, I learned this early on, Brother Jim, your brother, and Brother John both. They pray with open Bibles. Pray with an open Bible. I started doing that. And it's amazing to me how that helps feed your prayer. It's like fuel. Sometimes when we pray, it can actually be discouraging. Why? We're rehearsing to the Lord all of our problems. Lord, I have problems. Health problems, spiritual problems, sin problems, family problems. Lord, help me with this. Lord, help me. And we're praying, but you ever get discouraged praying? Because by praying, you're actually dwelling on all of the problems? They can wear you right out. You've got to say, Lord, I got health problems, but you're the great physician right here. Lord, I have no strength, but you said my grace is sufficient for thee. My strength is made perfect in weakness. You said it right here. Lord, I'm overwhelmed with the nation that we are in and what's going on, and oh, we need to return back to you. You said, if my people, which are called by thy name, will humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, will forgive their sin and heal their land. And yes, every problem that you pray, it can be overwhelming, but when you have the Word of God, you have something to stand upon, and you have something to claim, and it encourages you to pray. I'll tell you, 15 minutes of prayer without an open Bible can be the longest 15 minutes of your day. It can be hard to pray, but not with the Bible. God said this, I'm taking that. I didn't know he said that. That's there. Where's my highlighter? There it is. I needed that. Thank you, Lord. And you're taking this back to God. Daniel knew the Word. Nehemiah knew the Word. Ezra knew the Word. And they prayed based on it. When's the last time you memorized a promise about your situation? About your need? About your problem? When's the last time you claimed a promise about that situation? Why not now? Claim a promise for your family. Claim a promise for your son, daughter. Claim a promise for yourself and the victory that you need. Claim a promise for your country. And then hold on to it. I'll tell you, that's the thing. How long are you willing to hold on to a promise? Maybe there's a promise you can hold on to for 20 years. You know, sometimes there's a battle that is unseen that we don't even understand what's all going on out there. Satan is fighting hard. He's waging war, but God's bringing pieces together. What you think of as a 20-year hiatus in God answering your prayer, you don't know, but what it's been 20 years of God moving mountains, bringing the pieces together, and he's just about ready to bring it through. And don't stop praying when God has led you to a promise. Stand upon it. 2 more things and we're done. Pray like Nehemiah by letting God break you. Remember your covenant-keeping God. Pray earnestly, persistently, continually. Take personal responsibility when you confess. Stand upon the promises, and then embrace your identity and claim your inheritance as a child of God. Look at verse 10. Now these are thy servants, and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. Do you see how he's praying here? He is not on the outside looking in. He's on the inside. He's in his Father's lap, talking to his Father. You know how many times we allow Satan to cause us to pray like we're on the outside looking in, that we're trying to convince God of something he doesn't want to do, that we're trying to hold his attention because he really doesn't care. He's distracted, and that's not the case. You oftentimes will identify with your defeat, and your prayer will tell that tale. How you pray. Lord, sorry to bother you. You got way more to do. I'm sorry I'm coming to you again about the same thing. Oh, this is embarrassing. I keep praying the same prayer, okay, you know what, Lord? Just forget about it. I've prayed that way before. Lord, if you think that maybe you could help with this when you have time, who is God to you? He is being, his perception is being assaulted by Satan, and you're buying the lie. You know, it's kind of like this. It's a cold day, and Jesus is inside the house with all of his children gathered around. There's food on the table, there's a fire in the hearth, and it's warm, and there's fellowship, and there's talking, and you're out there at that pane, that window pane. Wow, must be nice. They just talked to him in there. I would love to go in there. Wait a minute, you have a key. You're a child of the king. You're one of the kids. Open the door. Get in there. Satan's the one that put you out. You're not even supposed to be out there. We oftentimes slip away from our position. Don't identify with the defeat. Don't identify with discouragement. But identify as a child of the king. Look at what he says. These are thy servants, thy people. What is he saying? I am his servant. I am one of his people. He redeemed me. He knows all about his power. He knows all about that hand. He has experienced the strong hand of God. He knows the touch of God. Sometimes we have to remember that and rehearse it when we really just aren't feeling it.
Amen.
No, I am his servant. And he's not just reminding God of this, God already knows this. I think this prayer is as much for him as it is for God. Lord, these are thy servants. These are thy people. These are the ones you have redeemed by your great arm and your strong hand. Lord, we're yours. Stand your ground in prayer as a child of God. You're not a nuisance. He's not embarrassed with you. You're one of his kids.
Amen.
This next one here we'll get to it. The next one is petition boldly. Verse 11. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. Petition boldly, finally. Come out and ask him, what do you need? He finally gets to it. It takes a long time to work up to it, but at the end of the prayer, he finally gets there. What does he need? He needs God to do a miracle on his behalf. He's the king's cupbearer, about to go ask the king for the unthinkable. Can I leave my duty as serving cups and go build a wall? Hey, why not? Ask God about it. Be clear, decisive, thorough. Leave nothing on the table. Boldly ask God for everything. That's what Nehemiah did. And I want you to see, it's like verse 6. Look at verse 6 again. Verse 6 says, let thine ear now be attentive and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant. And then verse 11, O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant and the prayer of thy servants. He's so earnest. He wants his Father's attention. I think of this with my kids. The verse of an ear be attentive, the eyes be open. I'll be sitting on the couch maybe, and Emily's talking to me, and she can tell I'm not really locked in. Emily, she's bold. She will climb up on that couch, climb right into the lap, and she'll say, Daddy, grab my face. I'm talking to you. Can you look at me? I'm talking to you. Oh yeah, Emily, I'm sorry. Yes. What do you need, hon? Now, God is always looking at us. His ear is always open. But I think you see the heart of Nehemiah as the heart of that child. Lord, I've got to have I got to have all your attention. He says it twice, verse 6 and verse 11. Open your ears, open your eyes. Lord, right now, hear me. How does God respond to that? Well, I know how to respond to my kid. I like that. I like it when Emily comes and she's that bold. She'll climb right up. Now, you guys probably wouldn't do that. If I'm sitting in my office, I don't see anybody coming in my office. That's Barbara. I'm like, come here, look at me, I'm talking to you. That wouldn't go too well, right? But when it's your kid, it goes right to your heart. I want to hear. I'm locked in. What do you need? I want to hear. God sees Nehemiah as his child. He says, you have my full attention. What do you need? Ask. So many times the problem is not getting God's attention. It's the fact that we just aren't that earnest to even seek audience with him. The Bible says in James 4, ye have not because ye ask not. He put it right back on us. He is willing to hear. He is willing to answer. Hebrews 4:16 says, let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and grace to help in time of need. And he spells it out. I need your help. I'm the king's cupbearer. Grant me mercy in the sight of this man. Favor in the sight of this man. And God does exactly that. How many prayers is God wanting to answer of yours and mine if we would have the faith to pray them and to lay it out in detail? Folks, we need to pray in detail for our country. We need to pray in detail for this church, for our mission field right here in Michigan. We need to pray in detail for our family, for our marriages, for our personal walk with God. And don't be like the king in the Old Testament who struck the arrows on the ground 3 times and stopped. And the prophet said, oh, we shouldn't have stopped. God was going to give you a victory for every single time you hit those arrows on the ground. And so now you get 3 victories. You could have done 7, 8, 9. How many of us have done that? We've struck 3 times and stopped. As the old saints would used to say, pray through. Keep praying. Stay in that focused place of getting a hold of God and making clear that petition. You look at Nehemiah. He was nothing special. If there's anything special about him, it was just simply the fact that he was willing to allow God to break him, use him, and in prayer, mobilize him in a way that he can actually be a help and of use in God's cause. We're going to see the next couple of points, the next couple of weeks. We saw, first of all, how to pray like Nehemiah and his fervent prayer. We'll look at the next couple of weeks, see his faith-filled petition and his focused perspective. God used this man, and he is not a respecter of persons. God will answer your prayer, and he will use you. Amen. A couple of takeaways will be done. These are takeaways we've seen before in this series, but it still applies. In wrath, God still remembers mercy, so why not pray? You say, oh, I'm in verse 8. I've sinned and been scattered just like God said. You can't stay there, folks, because verse 9 follows verse 8. A lot of us, we stay in defeat. Oh, God's just mad at me. There's no mercy for me. Absolutely wrong. If you will turn, he will bring it back. Even if you were scattered as far as the heavens, it says, he'll bring it back. In wrath, God still remembers mercy. Habakkuk said, O Lord, I've heard thy speech and was afraid. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years make known. In wrath, remember mercy. Hang on to that, folks, in prayer. Secondly, God makes good on his promises. Whereby ye are given exceeding great and precious promises, where that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature. God makes good on his promises. Know them. Meditate on them. Claim them and cling to them. He wants to hear his promises in prayer. And don't forget that prayer still works. Nehemiah, Ezra, Daniel, they all believed in prayer, and everything we read in the restoration period was bathed in prayer, came out of prayer. And as we're praying, don't be overwhelmed with headlines. Don't be overwhelmed with the things that you see come and go. Those things break you and bring you to the God who is in control. God is in control, sovereignly working his will, moving mountains through men, oftentimes without that man's knowledge or purposeful compliance. That's how big he is. Darius, Cyrus, Artaxerxes, Ahasuerus, all of these men in this time period called the Restoration period, God used them, pagan though they were. Selfish sinners. They thought they were completely just doing what they wanted to do, and God was using it to accomplish his will. We pray to that God. So again, if your friend comes to you as Nehemiah's friend came to him and said, it's all over! The gates are burned, the walls are broken down, I know Cyrus did some things, and Zerubbabel and they built the temple, whatever, but it's over now! It's all over! How is that going to impact you? I trust that God will help us to be men and women of prayer. Prayer in action. If God will use churches like this one to get desperate, we can see a move of God. He'll revive this work in these years. Lord, I pray you help us as men and women here, young people here, Lord, that we would not allow Satan to distance us from your promises, from our position in you. Lord, that we would not get distracted and overwhelmed. There's so much to overwhelm us and discourage us these days. Lord, focus us on your word, the God who was in control. And Lord, would you help us as a church to band together in prayer, both privately and publicly, corporately. And Lord, would you move again in the hearts of men? Lord, we want you to work in America. Bring us back to you. Lord, we want you to work in our families. They be reserved for you. And Lord, we want you to work in our own lives. Lord, Lord, revive us, I pray. Help us to take the personal responsibility that Nehemiah took. I pray in Jesus' name. Heads bowed and eyes closed. I want to give you an opportunity to respond to the Lord right now. How has He spoken to you? Maybe you need to refocus. Maybe you need to repent. God wants to deal with you about something. Would you take a moment and talk to Him? If you're not for sure that your sins are forgiven and you have eternal life, you don't know that you are on your way to heaven, I'd love to talk to you about that. It's the most important decision to know that Jesus is your Savior, that you have eternal life. I'll be available after the service out into the carport. You can talk to me there. Or you can talk to me, talk to another one of our workers. We'll get that matter taken care of. It's a need in your heart. Let's be praying for our country, for God to work in these days. Pastor CJ.
Thank you, Pastor Barbara. Great message on the need of prayer, and praise God for the fact that we belong to Him. And because of that, our prayers are heard. We'll pray, and then I'm actually going to dismiss our group in the balcony first so they can get out on the road after we pray, and then we'll dismiss the rest of us. So let's close this morning in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for your goodness to us. We thank you that because of what Christ did, and because you promised to save us and put us into the family when we put our faith in Him, that we belong, and we have access to the throne of grace in time of need. And this is certainly a time of need in our country. Lord, help us to see that it is us standing in the need of prayer. We are needy, and we need you to work. And so we do pray that you would work in our lives, forgive us of our sins, forgive us of our neglect. Lord, forgive us of our selfishness. I know I'm praying for myself. Lord, I pray that through the church, your body, you would begin to work in this country, that churches everywhere would be a lighthouse and would shine the gospel to a needy world. Lord, please bless our activities today. May we please you. And as we tune in tonight, I pray that we would be blessed from the video we watch for our small group time. Bless the group from Indiana as they travel, protect them. And I pray that you would be honored in all we do, say, and think today. And we pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, before we dismiss, I want to let our group go so they can get out to the parking lot. And then if we would just hang tight for just a second, and then you're dismissed. Lord bless you. God bless you.